Okay.
Okay, we're starting again, and now let's go back. We got Nadine, and this is part 3 along with Sharon Farrell. So where do we leave off? Where do you ladies leave off?
I think we were talking about Shelley
Right.
at the Actors Studio. Did I get to tell about? Oh, we cut off. Shelley came in and didn't recognize her third husband.
Yeah, we talked about Anthony
himself. And then we
Francioso.
sat down, and there was a scene going on with a very talented actress who was a friend of Shelley's as well. And when it came time to critique, Paul Newman was the moderator that day. When it came time to critique, Shelley mentioned some very personal, private things in the critique to the girl about what she was letting block her, and it really upset the girl. Like, I can't believe you would say these things that I told you in confidence, Shelley. Very upset. Paul Newman got things calmed down and got the session going again, and he said, okay, does anybody have anything to say except Shelley, because Shelley was going to get all fired up again, and he kept Shelley quiet and made it through the session. I got to be with Shelley through a couple of instances where we kind of had to make a run for it, like the Johnny Carson show. She was on the Johnny Carson show quite a bit. She said she really scared him.
I'm sure
She said, whenever I'm talking to him, I can see the terror in his eyes. He's afraid of me. And there was one time she was on, and she mentioned something about them being on a boat, and he said, I think you thought I was Angie Dickinson. And he got very nervous and said, no, I don't think I thought you were. And she said, yeah, you came in my room, and I think we were together, and I think you thought I was Angie Dickinson. He was not amused. The audience was amused. Johnny, every night for the next 3 weeks, made a joke about somebody sleeping with Shelley Winters. And she was not on for a while. It was just, I was like, we're getting out of here. And I remember being in the dressing room with her, and he came in to say hello, and he was in just a V-neck, tight-fitting cashmere sweater and some slacks, and he was so different. His persona was so different when he was him. He was kind of this slim, sexy dude,
Yeah, instead of this, all of a sudden he put on a suit and he became another character.
It was very interesting. I was quite impressed and disappointed that she kind of put a kibosh on the appearances for a while with that little remark. I begged her to go on Letterman. She said, no, they insult their guests, and I really wanted to be Letterman.
But she was very generous to actors.
Oh, yeah.
She
really
loved actors.
She did, especially if they were young, cute Italian boys. She was extremely helpful.
Yeah. She did have a...
She loved them, but...
She found some great actors.
I remember when she did Delta Force, and she had a screening.
That was right before I started working with her. My friend was her assistant on that, and my friend, she now is one of the top caterers, and she always caters the Oscars every year. And she was my coworker with Shelley, and she said in Israel she hired a babysitter to stay with Shelley because she was not going to sit home and not go out and see Jerusalem. So she hired.
But she had the screening over at the Paramount Theater. I remember, and I came in late, and she said, "Who's that? Who are you?" I said, "I'm John Solari." She says, "Oh, Solari. Okay, you can come on in to see the film."
That was a pretty fun party. Were you at the party for that
Yes.
movie in the parking lot of Menachem Golan's thing?
I might have been. I remember it was a long time ago.
But I remember that I met
Canon Films. That was.
It was one of their first Menachem Golan, and oh God, what is his name? Chuck Norris. I got to meet Chuck Norris, and I said, I work for Shelley, and I think I need your motorcycle that shoots the missiles to work for Shelley. And he goes, yeah, I think you need it more than me. And that was, Susan Strasberg was in that, and Lainey Kazan was in that. Lainey is one of my favorite people I've ever worked for, and I think she's one of the most talented people
She really is very
ever
talented, Lainey.
seen.
Still singing.
I wrote a script for her, and I'm kind of scared to give it to her. But
We were supposed to have coffee.
Why? I just saw her at a...
Tina Louise used to have a Christmas party every year.
I have been to that Christmas party back in the day.
Back in the day, yes. And I always remember the day when Shelley Winters came up with Lainey and Diane
Diane
Ladd,
Ladd.
and all them. They came out of theaters and they brought a chocolate cake, and you could tell there was a big slice out of it. And I always
Shelley
remember at the end of the party, Shelley took it home with her, you know. But Tina used to have all the parties up at her house.
She had a great house.
Oh yeah, up there and off Coldwater Canyon.
She had this big, beautiful color photo in the hall of them all on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah,
Remember that? Oh,
yeah. She's living in New York now.
oh really? She used to have boxes of See's candy all around at
Yeah.
that Christmas party. I said, that's the way to live.
Yeah, she had a great party. Tina Louise, another member of the studio who was very talented
Very talented.
and never got her due. Really,
TV used to really kill people's careers in the old days.
yeah.
Really used to just.
Now, what was it like with Geraldine Page and all that? I mean, you were around Geraldine and
She was another one that I didn't feel like I could be an actress until I was as good as Geraldine Page. I had this in my mind since I was, I don't know, 11 or 12. So as soon as I got up to the level of Geraldine Page, then I was really an actress. And so, and the Geraldine Page moment was seeing Interiors. I loved her in all the other movies, and I loved her in Sweet Bird of Youth, and thought she was the greatest. But when I saw Interiors, that was another like member of the wedding for me. One of those movies where this isn't acting. This is something that's communicating the way a person is trying to get through life, and life isn't letting them do it, and it's really being expressed that way, as only a method actor can do. And so when I first met her in New York, I was really, I'm not usually tongue-tied by anybody, but I was very much tongue-tied. And then I found out there were auditions for her class. This was after Lee passed away. And
World Classes in the Village?
No, they were in...
They had a studio down in the Village, down Barrow Street.
I
They had a
don't,
little
this
theater.
is,
I think she was married at the time to Rip Torn.
oh, this is way later.
Later,
No,
yeah.
this is later. She would still talk about Rip quite a bit, but Rip was living with, Rip was living in L.A. with that younger actress and the other child. Anyway, I did this monologue that I had written about the time that I had met Henry Fonda, and I got the call that I was accepted into the class, and she couldn't have been kinder or more gracious to me, and said the things that I dreamed of hearing. And she would always say, she goes, honey, I don't really have anything to say to you as far as acting. You just should go to my voice teacher. What a compliment, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, she said other great compliments that are, I'm not going to brag, but that was her one kind of thing of advice.
I want to hear you brag.
When we turn off the camera.
Oh, you're
But
not going to share it with us.
I basically, you know, I heard whatever I needed to hear from Lee and from her, and that was what has kept me vigilant in wanting to do work that lives up to the standards of these people that is disappearing. There's no...
Work is disappearing.
There's no forum for people. I'm sorry, but American Idol doesn't cut it, and The Voice does not cut it. It's not a craft. You know, you have to get a very little sleep and sing every day, but it's not...
It's not the work.
Like
You're
being
saying.
away from cameras and coming in and having someone tell you what isn't working because they know.
Well, speaking of that, we were talking earlier before off camera when I mentioned to you about when you're watching actors on screen driving a car, and they're looking over at each other.
They're talking and they don't watch it.
They're
You're thinking,
driving.
you're gonna hit somebody. Stop looking at each other. You're gonna. And I keep thinking, you know, I don't even hear what they're saying. I'm waiting for them to hit something.
That's the point.
It's
What
like
Sharon
so-
just said. That's the point. Actors have to understand. We're not listening anymore because you're not doing you're not being real. We're waiting for the accident to happen. It's like when actors walk up and down. I went, why are you walking? I'm not listening to what you say.
You have
Shelley
to have a
Winters
reason
always
to
used to
walk
talk about
somewhere.
that.
You can't just walk around.
But actors do it out of nerve. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I was a script supervisor. When I had come back to Los Angeles with Shelley to help her work on this pilot, the irony that now I'm working for a woman who was a grand dame of casting, and she was very good friends with the Landsbergs, and she would hear the Landsbergs complain ad nauseum about how Shelley Winters is killing them. They're doing this pilot with her, and she's just driving them crazy. She's going to kill them. I was her assistant on that pilot all those years ago, and the director was another great talented guy, Peter Bonners, and he was so kind to me, and he let me be on the floor and hide wherever I could to help her get her lines. And when the whole shoot was over and everybody went to the wrap party, and of course Shelley didn't let me go.
She didn't let you go?
No, she didn't go. She didn't let me go. I was told by the script supervisor of that show. She said that Peter proposed a toast at the end of the evening, saying that let's propose a toast to the one person who got this pilot done, Nadine.
What was Shelley doing that was driving them crazy? You didn't speak
What
about
was
that.
she doing? The script was probably terrible.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you said she was driving them crazy.
How did she drive him crazy?
You don't want to talk
She
about
worried
it?
about her makeup or something
Okay.
like that.
Okay, I mean...
Shelley's going to be mad at you. She's going to come down and say,
No,
why
it's all right,
did
it's
you
all
say
right.
that?
I have so many funny
let's
things
go.
about
I wanted to
Shelley.
know more. I was asking you about
She
what
wants
we're
to
talking
talk.
about.
When I came back from after that pilot, people offered me all kinds of jobs, and because they knew I could wrangle Miss Winters and Shelley's friends. I worked for Laney and for Diane Ladd and these people, and as well. And I became a writer's assistant, comedy writer's assistant, and one thing and another. And when you work for producers, writers, even directors, you are at a desk. You're at a phone, you're at a computer, and the fact that I would tell them, well, you know, I was Lee Strasberg's directing protege, and really, but how fast do you type? And you know, there's a lot of phones, can you run calls, and they really didn't have the slightest interest in me.
Did they know who Lee was?
As a girl, yeah, but I was a girl.
Okay.
If I was a boy, it might have been a whole different story.
Yeah.
So eventually, after one whole long movie at Disney that had, it was a very long movie because it had a lot of special effects, I, in my spare time after the end of my 12-hour days, I learned how to be a script supervisor, and I did my first film with a friend from the Actors Studio who was at AFI, and I knew, you know, you can't not be with the director and the DP. You're part of that system, and I couldn't afford film school, so that's what I did. And I did get to meet Billy Wilder, and he said, "Don't do film school, work." And so that's what I did.
Carolina Silva's the gal that does the web series. She's a graduate of USC, and she said everything she learned was after film school. So she says the way I'm the way I'm doing the shows, I didn't learn any of this in film school. So
Well,
you just do the work.
I
Yes,
have,
you
I
do
have
work.
lectured on script supervising at USC. They don't have classes in the film schools about script supervising and about continuity. And when I did it, it was on 35mm cameras, and you had Video Village or you didn't have Video Village. Somebody would just say, we're on a 50, and you had to know exactly where that was going to be from where the camera was to know what you had to make sure was matching. And it was the greatest experience in learning how the whole thing works. And I mean from top to bottom, from the camera and sound and how long it takes to set lights and turn the room around to get the other side, and where you're going to be on what lines, what is really acceptable to get something to match and cut together and what isn't. tricks actors will pull to try and keep the camera on them.
Like what? So we were
Oh.
talking about that yesterday.
Well, when I directed my first feature, I noticed one of my lead actors was very busy with his hands, and very interesting, and especially at the ends of his lines or the beginning of somebody else's lines or something, he would make sure that he would kind of keep himself kind of into their shot so that you really couldn't cut away from him, or you'd keep it in a two-shot or something.
Was this done on purpose or was it just acting?
Heck yeah.
Okay, that's I mean,
I
So
do
what did
rem-
he do? He did something with his hands. So
Anything.
if I go like that and it's on your close up, they're gonna have to do a close up of me. That kind of thing.
No,
I touch
they don't
you,
have to do
or-
a close. They have to do corresponding matching shots anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to do a close up of you or not. If you're, and it's not just your fingers are in it or whatever, then they would probably cut that and get your hands out of there. It's just
I misunderstood what you
it's just
said.
a way of what you're doing
Hmm.
and how you're doing it and how you're moving and just your body body language.
Script supervisors are the most important. They were the most important people on the set.
I always believed that.
Absolutely, because you have to, you know, if you've got a scene and you're drinking coffee, you gotta pick up that coffee on the line where you know, for the close-up, because they used to do the masters, the close-ups, and
They still do,
you know,
to some extent. Some
script
independent
supervisor's very important.
some independent films now just do everything real close. If there's not a lot of money, the digital stuff,
Yeah.
they don't have
Close-ups.
a
Well,
lot of-
yes, everybody's looking at things on their phones, you know.
Well, you're a woman
Some close-ups
director.
are
How
good.
was that?
Not just that, but the lenses do not have that same kind of depth of field anymore. So you really cannot get broad, deep layers the way, I mean, you can't do those kind of John Ford.
Oh.
But I was asking
So
you, as a
Yes.
as a woman director, what was that like? Because you started a little while back directing.
It was
Hard. Tough.
it was not.
Did you have your own crew
Easy.
and everything?
I thought that by picking my crew, by picking women friends that I had worked with, and we had always said, you know, when one of us makes it, we'll bring the others along. And that was really one of the biggest disappointments, was the fact that they were not supportive or happy for me, or they didn't know me before when I had been around Shelley and different people, where I was really learning a lot of the brass tacks of what has to happen. They knew me from being a crew person, a script supervisor. They didn't know me from being around some of the greatest people that ever had anything to do with film. And so it was very disappointing. It made it more difficult. A lot of people will always sell you, particularly camera people, will always, and this goes in other things I've worked on, several things I've worked on, they will always sell themselves. I find the people that sell themselves the best are usually come up the shortest in the actual doing department. But people that don't know you, that know you for being the director, and you relating to them on what they can do, that is, I can see why a lot of people don't hire friends and go with this type of relationship. I understand that a lot more now. It's just a more efficient way of working than trying to see if somebody that you thought was your friend isn't going to be.
We try to hire the best, but I mean, it's you're a,
You have to hire the best, and if you've hired someone and you can still get the best, I was told by a very important producer, be ruthless. Stick up for your people, fight for them to the end, but if you're going to get somebody better, be ruthless. And I unfortunately have to agree with that.
Well, it's your vision.
Bette Midler once said, the hardest thing about success is finding someone to be happy for you, and it really seems that way. I mean, you think on the set sometimes, how did they even listen to Scorsese the first time? How do you get these people to listen to you when you want to do something that's different? I remember having to argue with my DP. I said, I want them flat against the wall. Their back is against the wall in this situation. I want them flat. And she had heard something somewhere in a class, oh, you never shoot somebody flat against the wall. It's not...
You got to break the rules sometimes.
First of all, it's not a rule, and it's germane to the scene, and it's getting...
You wanted it that way. You're the director. You should have that.
People don't want to do what you tell them. They want to do what they want to do, and a movie is not that environment. A movie is everybody.
Teamwork.
Everybody is on the same page. Everybody knows that the characters are going to be dressed a certain way in a certain section of the movie. And as the script supervisor, you have to know that wardrobe has got to have at least 3 shirts for that guy who's going to get shot in that shirt. And if your UPM or producer or somebody says, well, we don't have the money for that, you have to know and go to the director and let them say, yeah, well, then you don't have the money for this guy to get shot. Because there has to be a before he shot, a dripping, you know, and then whatever happens, you know, and he cannot go and sit and eat sloppy joes at lunch with it, you know, things like that. But the dailies, the tone of the movie, everybody has to be on the same page. And studio movies are usually too many chiefs, not enough Indians. There's too many cooks putting in a bunch of spices and nobody's tasting it. You know, there's no real cohesive one voice.
That's true. Well, Sharon knows a lot about that too. I mean, you've worked on so many films and TV, and she knows exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
a lot of ways, just you know.
You have the director here and the actor there. Now, how do you communicate?
Yeah, it's true.
You know.
I like what's going on now because I like the digital and I like the fast-moving pace. And if I, as an actor, if I'm going to get shot, I'll go buy 3 shirts. The last thing I did, I went and spent
that's not right either.
$130. Who cares what's right? If I've got the money and if I need certain makeup, I'll go get it. And I've always done my own makeup. I always take care of myself because I find that people, if they don't like you, they'll do you in. I mean, a hairdresser can come up to you at the last minute, you know, right where you're close up and swoosh your hair back and you're not going to match the other scene and that scene's going to get cut.
But then the script supervisor will step in.
Well, in this instance, it didn't happen. At Can't Buy Me Love, the whole scene was cut because the hairdresser came and flattened down the top of my hair, and my hair was at a certain style. That was with Patrick Dempsey.
I love that movie. Who are you in that?
I played Mrs. Mancini. I played her mom. I had a white leather outfit. I told her she couldn't borrow it. She borrows it and she goes out and she gets wine all over it. And then she, I go and she
You just brought a smile to her face.
I remember that.
She sells herself to him. Yeah.
He was cute in that. I like that one.
Yeah, he was adorable. He had a coach. He was married to his coach. And yeah. And she, all the scenes I did with him, he didn't look at me, he looked right at her, right past me and her, he delivered all his lines to her. So I can understand why a director wouldn't want a coach on the set. I mean, it didn't throw me, but the hairdresser ruined that scene anyway, because my hair was a certain way, and then when they came in for the close-up, she just changed the whole hairstyle. She knew what she was doing.
As a director dealing with
and it was a very, very low budget. So So as a actor dealing with
As
an
a, as
actor,
a, as an actor, as a director
As a
dealing
director.
with actors, having known what it takes to be an actor and having known what Lee Strasberg and listening to Arthur Penn at the studio and
Break
some
the
of
rules.
the other great directors that try and protect the actors, I've always tried to be whatever the actor needs. Some actors like feedback and want to be near the director, and some don't want you there. They want their
Well,
space. They want it.
concentration.
I have always let them try whatever they want first. And I was always amazed as a script supervisor to see a director come in and tell them what to do and not let them try what they've come in and prepared. And even if they do what the director says, the director still doesn't let them come in, let them do what they've asked to do. I'm constantly amazed by that.
Yeah.
Or the director is changing the angle and doesn't really tell the actor, and the actor is giving the performance for the close-up, and he's panned away to something else, and their best moment that really underscores the whole scene
is on a
is over
Fruit-
here, and he's over here, and
yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
it's hard.
frustrating.
It's hard.
That's
It's hard to
very
be an actor. You
frustrating.
have to really
It really is.
be on their side and let them know, and be their advocate for the army. You're really like it's really like being in an army, and you have to tell the generals, I have to protect my troops here. They need water now. They need.
Well, that's true, yeah. I've always been a fan of women directors because they talk to you. You know, they
That's
talk
nice
to me.
hear.
No, I always. And when you mentioned Arthur Penn, he always told me, John, break the rules.
He was a great moderator. wasn't
He was at the studio. I did a few things for him, but I always remember that line. And I
I've
tell
never
actors,
worked with a female director.
I've done a few of them. Actually, my cousin Camille Solari, she's a stand-up comic, and she's a very good director, writer, actress, and comedian. She does it all.
Oh, how can I say that on the web series? The gal's the
And
director.
women, they seem to.
Lie.
I'm a big fan of. All my life, Salome Jenger's my idol. You know, I mean, she's 25 years with Lee. She's like when she teaches or moderates, it's like listening to Lee. She's just like that.
You might like it again.
There's
now.
so few left of these people
Yeah,
that
right,
you can really get to hear like that anymore.
Yeah.
But they change too. People are changing. People are getting
Well,
better.
there's a lot of
and better.
moderators too at the studio.
You know,
who
sometimes I have
they want their
experience.
version, not Lee's.
I do want to give a shout out to
Go ahead.
Liz Kemp, who has been running
Oh,
the
yes.
studio in New York. Who,
Yes.
I knew from lighting that show with Shelley and getting to know her better through Shelley.
Elizabeth Kemp, yes.
And she does the good old days.
It's we're running out of time. I just want outside of Shelley Winters give me the best advice. Elizabeth Kemp, I was doing Michael Donnelly's play, The Donut Shop, and I'm supposed to see this girl, you know, and she told me afterwards I didn't see it, and it was the best advice because, you know, I didn't see it either when I did the donut. Elizabeth Kemp, I always remind her of that, and she loved it. Yeah, she's one of the gifts from Actors Studio. And when I used to hang out with her, and not her, oh, you mentioned her name. She was on the blacklist.
Lee Grant,
Lee Grant.
great moderator.
Oh, wonderful
Brilliant.
moderator.
And a brilliant director.
Oh, yes, she does mostly documentaries.
But she did, she started out doing some features, and I
Yeah.
don't know why she doesn't, but
But now she just...
She taught me something. I did a Ben Casey with her, and I was playing. She was dating my dad, who was a very wealthy man. Oh God, he was. I wish I could remember his name because he's like an old timer, you know, a real old timer. Anyway, she was married. She was going to marry my dad, and I was playing a really, really rich girl. I was having problems because I come from white trash, you know, and she said, it's the same thing. Don't change anything. Just be who you are, you know. Just be who you are, because rich, poor, just be who you are. And all of a sudden, a great weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I did Sharon, you know, with the wallet, with a lot of money in her wallet. That's all.
So,
And I played this girl, and I was very jealous of her.
plenty of rich people have bad manners.
Oh
that's
my-
true.
yeah.
Nadine, do you have a website or anything?
I'm I'm trying to get it together.
Okay.
I have several documentaries that are
How do we find you?
shot.
Well, you can find her on
Web,
Facebook.
On YouTube,
They're not complete.
Netflix.
Well,
No, my feature's done. My feature may be on Netflix. I don't know.
we'll talk about that in a minute because we're just out of time.